Currently out of a playoff position, dropping points late in a match once again. Nathan Ingham calling out his teammates. Atletico Ottawa, what on earth is going on?
I don't think at this point we deserve another opportunity, but if we're given it, I hope to God the locker room wakes up and we get it done, because it feels like a lot of guys in the wrong profession right now if we can't turn things around.
Could the 2022 regular season champions miss out on the playoffs altogether? Ottawa have dropped late winners in 5 of their last 6 matches, and they're winless in their last 7. Alex, what the heck is happening right now with Ottawa?
Yeah, I mean, that's the question that a lot of fans, and I'm sure especially those out of Ottawa, are asking right now. But it has been the story of this last few weeks, because for a second there, Ottawa was putting them right up there with Cavalry, Pacific, even Forge, when it was kind of that lump of 4 teams pushing for first place, Halifax just lurking. Who would have thought that about all those teams, Ottawa would have just tanked completely? They looked like they were in fine form. And it's a big surprise, because I think if you're going to say anything about Ottawa's struggles, you'd be like, oh, maybe they're not scoring goals, or, maybe they're this or that. But the last thing you would have said is their defense crumbling, especially late moments in games. This is an Ottawa team that prides itself on its organization, its discipline, its togetherness, and they just haven't been anything but, right, over the last few weeks. So I think that's been the biggest surprise to see, and it could hurt them, because now they're going to need a miracle in the last weekend to even make the playoffs. And as we've seen with this new format, even just finishing 5th is not going to be enough to you're going to have a long road ahead of you, even if you make it as the 5th place team. So it is a huge surprise for Ottawa.
Well, it's definitely hurting them in the power rankings, because they've crashed down to last place. Alex, how's the rest of the list look?
Yeah, to begin, I mean, Cavalry, they just keep winning. 4 wins in a row. That will keep you at the top of the power rankings. But there's another team that's hot, and pretty much the hottest team in the league right now, not named Cavalry, Vancouver FC. I mean, take a bow for them. They're up to 2nd in the power rankings thanks to their 3-game win streak. They've won 4 of their last 5. Meanwhile, Forge has lost to Halifax, bumps them down to 3rd. Halifax jumps up to 4th with their win over Forge. York jumps 3 spots with their huge win over Ottawa. Valor holds after losing to Cavalry. Pacific drops 4 spots after their home loss to Vancouver in the Salish Sea Derby. And lastly, Ottawa's consistent woes has them all the way down to 8th.
All right, Alex, now it's time to move on to the latest playoff picture right now. The Cavs, of course, have already locked up first place, but after this weekend, Valor locked up officially last place in 8th and the Wooden Spoon, while Vancouver also locked up 7th place. But other than that, it's pretty open with spots 6 to 2 up in the air.
Yeah, it's going to be quite the last weekend, which is pretty much what you always hope for heading into the final weekend. You want every game to matter, and every game does matter for different reasons, either seeding or booking a spot in the playoffs, and that's going to be good from a competition standpoint. As for the permutations, let's go one by one. I'll start with Forge. For them, it's quite simple this weekend. They need to win to guarantee 2nd place. They don't need to rely on any results. If not, if they draw, they're going to need Pacific to drop points. If they lose, they need Pacific not to win and for Halifax to not win. Or if not, it could come down to goal difference or even goals for.
Pacific absolutely needs to rely on some other results. They need Forge to draw or lose, and Pacific needs to win to secure 2nd place. And if Pacific draw or lose themselves and Halifax wins, they'll drop down to 4th.
As for Halifax, don't look now. We mentioned this last week. They're still in the race to potentially finish 2nd. And they're guaranteed a home game now, which is also huge for the city of Halifax. And it's going to be a heck of a day at Wanderers Ground, no matter what playoff game it ends up being. But to get to 2nd, they're going to need Forge and Pacific both to lose. And they're going to need to win by 2 or more goals, or for Forge to lose by 2 or more goals to jump to 2nd place. If Forge loses by 1 or if Halifax wins by 1, it will come down to goals for. Right now, Forge has the edge in that category by just 1 goal. Otherwise, a Halifax win mixed with the Pacific draw or loss would secure 3rd place.
For York, it's relatively simple. They need to win to guarantee 5th place. An Ottawa draw or loss could also secure a playoff spot for York. So they may not have to do anything at all as long as Ottawa does not win.
Yeah, as for Ottawa, they're going to need York to drop points. A draw or loss is enough thanks to York's goal difference. But of course, Ottawa will then need to win. There's no other scenario in which they clinch without a win at Forge. But should York and Ottawa win, of course, York will get the playoff spot. So for Ottawa, the mission is simple this week: just win and get a little bit of help.
It's now time for this week's burning question, and we have a good one. It's around the MVP debate. And this year, we have probably 10 or so players that could win it. Last year was a little bit more obvious because there was, in my eyes, one player that deserved to win it, and he did. That was Ollie Bassett. But because there's so many this year, Alex, we got some categories. We got slept on midfielder contributions, we got defenders, we got attackers, and we will begin with the defending champion. I've already mentioned him, Ollie Bassett, who really has already improved on his numbers this season after last season's MVP campaign.
Yeah, I mean, the easy category to start with, I think, in any MVP race, it's who are the big guns and who won before. And I mean, Ollie Bassett, he's the defending champion. He swept both last year. We also have to remember there's the Players Player of the Year award as well as the Player of the Year award. So, maybe I wonder if maybe this year with how split it is, maybe the players and media will vote different on these two awards. But as for Bassett, he's definitely going to get a look, and, deservingly so. Ottawa's performances maybe have slipped. They're not the regular season champions like they were last year, which helped, but he's improved his numbers. He's, a big reason why they're even in a playoff race. I don't think if Bassett's there, they might be struggling near the bottom of the table, and that's always what an MVP does. And you add in that he's improved his numbers. He's really taken their attack on his shoulders. He's definitely going to get a look at the end of the year.
MVP debates always love its attackers, and we've got two very good ones to talk about right now, Alex. We have Ali Musi, who's the most dangerous player on the best team in the league and the best attack in the league. Everything goes through him. We know how talented he is. But we also have Ayman Salouf, who I think is a very intriguing player because this stat absolutely blew my mind. He's started literally half the games. He started 13 games, played in 26, and he leads the league in goal contributions with 15. Out of these two, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's fascinating because they're just, what I love about the MVP award, first off, is just there's so many different definitions. Like, is it a best player? Is it the team's most important player? Is it, the best player on the best team? Or does someone who's maybe on a not so good team but is doing so well, how do they get love? So all of these players just fit different categories. So first off, I love that we've been able to have this debate. To begin, Musi is a fascinating one because, okay, maybe his goal contribution numbers might not pop right away, but anytime you watch Cavalry plays, he's the straw that stirs the drink. He's just dominant. He'll even in games where he doesn't get a goal or an assist, he always does well. And he's on the team that won the league by a good amount. Cavalry low-key could finish with one of the best seasons in CPL history. It's going to be hard to ignore that sort of success, because success does well in MVP rates, and Musi deserves it. But as for Salouf, I mean, the numbers just speak for itself, right? Like 15 goal contributions, especially when you're not starting games, when you're coming off the bench. And okay, you could be like, okay, maybe he's running against tired defenses. He's winning games for Pacific off the bench too. It'd be one thing if he was just coming in and 2-0 games, 3-0 games and cleaning up. There's a few games where he came on, it's 1-1, 2-2, and they end up winning 4-2, 5-3 because, Salouf has helped run away with things. So he's definitely should be in the mix. And especially if Pacific maybe pushes up the table in this last week, Salouf has another big game. That'll be something to push him up in this race.
Now, attackers, as we know, love to be in that MVP debate, but some positions that don't really get that kind of glory are defenders. And we got two great defenders to touch on. It's the battle of the Dan, some may say. We have Dan Klomp, who's been an absolute machine this year on the best defense in the league. He's such a good leader as well, makes everyone around him better. And we have Dan Nimick, who's been probably my favorite defender to watch just because he's crazy good on both sides of the ball. His distribution is fantastic. He chips in with goals. He's the penalty taker, which is wild. He scored 5 goals this year, 4 successful penalties. He's just an absolute machine as well. Both these Dans, I think, deserve a shout. Alex, which one has impressed you?
Yeah, I think, Klomp for me has just been so solid. I think he could be Mr. Consistent. Every time you watch him, he doesn't seem to have bad games, right? Some guys, maybe they'll have a 10 one week or a 6 1 week. No, it just feels like his standard is an 8. and that's, as a defender, that's what you want. You need consistency at that position. So I think he deserves a shout. As for Nimick, it's just a great story, first off. I mean, the fact he's come in as a rookie out of college, straight into this Halifax team, so many new players, and they've been, they could push for second place. And Nimick has been a huge part of that. He's immediately found his feet, and I think it's a great story. And his performances have been among the best players in the league. So he absolutely deserves to be in this race. And hey, let's just say the battle, I do not envy the battle between these two for Defender of the Year as well.
That's totally fair. And we talked about how defenders are a bit slept on when it comes to the MVP race. Well, so are midfielders, especially number sixes. And that's where we're going to begin with Lorenzo Caligari. And when I say everything in the attack goes through Ali Musi, I mean that. But literally everything goes through Lorenzo Caligari. He is so incredible for this Halifax side. There's a stat out there that he has over 200 more passes than the second place in passes, which is to me absolutely insane. We have Kyle Becker as well, former MVP, Mr. Forge. He's having a great season. Career high right now with 7 assists, so he keeps getting better despite obviously getting up there in age. And of course, Manny Aparicio, who, one of the best players in the league, one of the most creative players in my mind, and the advanced numbers definitely show that.
Yeah, those are some good names. I think Caligari, he definitely feels like he should be in the short list of some sorts if it's 5 players, just because, like you mentioned, everything goes through him for Halifax. Like, he defensive transitions, playing out the back. He's for fun. He has, 5-6 assists, could have more. Like, he just drops key passes every game. And sometimes if I'd watch it, I feel like he should have more assists with some of the chances that have been squandered. He just does it all. And I think someone who does it all on both sides of the ball, that's important sometimes in the MVP race. It's not all about goals. It's not all about assists. So if you can get a guy who can do both, Caligari's done that. He deserves to be in. Kyle Becker, I mean, he's also been just so dominant in this league, and the fact that he's having his best season yet, arguably, aging like a fine wine, as they say, I think he absolutely deserves some look because Forge has still been very good. They could still comfortably finish second, and Kyle Becker has again been their best player 5 years in this league. He continues to find a new level. Credit has to be given, especially given that he's a former MVP. Otherwise, Manny Aparicio, don't sleep on him. I think he could have won MVP last year had he played more games, because he was the definition of valuable. Pacific got almost 3 times more points last year when he was in the 11. This year he's been in the 11 way more, and guess what? They've had a pretty good, darn good season, and funnily enough, they've kind of slipped as of late when he's kind of been rested and had some knocks as they prepare for the playoffs. He is by definition a very valuable player, and Pacific still has the best advanced metrics in the league. They have the most expected points. And Aparicio has played a huge part in them actually turning those expected points into points whenever he's been in the lineup.
All right, Alex, we've mentioned 8 players, but now it's time to pick who we think should be the MVP. I will begin with Lorenzo Caligari. We've already talked him up, but the number one reason for me is that this Halifax team would not be where they are without him.
It's a great choice for me. I'm going to lead to someone for Calgary, and while I'm impartial to my preseason pick of Ali Musi, and I think he has a great chance, I just have to go Dan Klomp. He's been too dominant defensively for them, and I think that's won them a lot of key games.
It's time for the look ahead for our Tony Bet match of the week between Vancouver FC and York United, and the storyline is pretty simple. York has continued to find a way with their backs against the wall. The veteran experience is finally paying off, and Martin Nash is pretty confident, saying that no one wants to play off in the playoffs. Is he right?
I think this is proving it, because sometimes, look, of course, in a season, you want to win every game. You want to win the league by a good margin, but sometimes things get in the way. Injuries, in York's case, U21 minutes, home form, et cetera, et cetera. At the end of the day, when it comes down to the big games, you need to get the job done. And whenever it seems that we count out York, they find a way. This weekend seemed like an example of it. They go out and get a huge win. Look, it shows that they've got some experience. They've got some character in this group, and they really want to go and make a run for the playoffs. Yeah, I don't want to blame them, especially given that they've been much better on the road in this season. And given how the playoff format is, they can finish no better than 5th, of course, as we mentioned. That's going to be a lot of road games if they're going to win a title.
Speaking of U21 minutes, York need around 133 to hit the threshold. Noah Botnay has stepped up big, but Alex, who do you expect to join him in this next match?
Yeah, I'd expect the Botnay again to eat up a bunch at that center back. He had a great performance, made the team of the week. So hopefully for York's sake, they'll want him to play 90, but they're going to need another one to at least go 45, 60. I would say someone like Trevine Esprit could make a lot of sense. He's had some good showings. If not, Martin Perreault at fullback if they want to maybe rest some of their veteran fullbacks. But I'd expect maybe a Batney at the back and then one of the attackers, because you don't want too many young guys on the at the back, because you're going to a Vancouver team that's in great form.
For this week's stat to watch, keep an eye on York's defense, who have conceded the second most goals in the league. Against Ottawa, York kept only their second clean sheet since the start of June. That's 2 clean sheets in 19 matches. Can they go to Vancouver and keep the Eagles down? It will be difficult to do because Vancouver has only been shut out once in their last 8 matches. If you want the opportunity to win the latest edition of Derby Magazine, find OneSoccer on social media, reach out to us and answer our burning question. Who do you think will be the MVP this season? We will pick a winner at random, so best of luck everyone. Thanks so much for watching and be sure to tune in for next week's update.